Good afternoon, and welcome to the Burroughs Foundation inaugural Historically Black Colleges and Universities in Action Town Hall discussion. Thank you very much for joining us. We are ready to now begin by welcoming Tyrone Burroughs, Chairman of the Burroughs Foundation. Tyrone Burroughs is the founder, president, and CEO of First Choice Sales and Marketing Group, a global consumer products management agency. He's also a business advisor serving on various boards throughout the community, nation, and state. We're pleased to have him to lead such a great organization. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our moderator, Mr. Tyrone Burroughs, Chairman of the Burroughs Foundation.
Damar, thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. You know, back in 2010, when we started the work of the foundation, one of our primary goals was to support ethnically diverse communities focusing on leadership empowerment. Our foundation works alongside communities to develop and support organizations across the nation. We have contributed to many philanthropist programs that empower diverse communities with focus on leadership empowerment. These efforts address the educational, health, and social needs of an ethnically diverse neighborhood. Our goal is to create an environment where our family members, friends, employees, and other youth can express themselves. As community and business leaders, we are committed to taking the issues that impact them seriously and want to be intentional about change, which brings us to today's program. There are more than 100 historical Black colleges and universities in our country playing a critical role in the American system of higher education. For most of America's history, African Americans seeking a college education could only benefit from one of these institutions. Today, historical Black colleges and universities disproportionately enrolled low-income and or first-generation college students, yet their academic accomplishments are unparalleled. HBCUs have 1/8 of the average size of endowments than historical white colleges and universities. Against these odds, historical Black colleges and universities historically have provided an affordable education to millions of students of color, graduating most African American teachers, doctors, judges, engineers, and other scientific and technological professions. For these reasons, and in alignment with our mission, the Burroughs Foundation has made it a priority to support their efforts. Today's virtual town hall will provide us with an overview of the current state of the HBCUs. We will then have a very, very, very engaging conversation with a group of dynamic leaders. Then we will hear from a couple of students, and we will close our town hall virtual meeting with a call to action. So let's keep it going. It is my honor to introduce our guest HBCU expert, Dr. Eddie Rice Cole. He will discuss the history of HBCU college presidents. As a historian, he focuses on academic leaders, help shape racial policies and practices. He serves as an associate professor of higher education and organizational change at UCLA, and the author of the Campus Color Line, College Presidents and the Struggle for Black Freedom. Dr. Cole's researches focus on college presidents, historical role in shaping racial policies and practices, both inside and outside the educational sphere. As a scholar of higher education history, his approach to cover historical material and connecting to the current critical context has garnered respect and praise from academics and intellectuals and activists beyond the academy. He is a decorated and distinguished expert, having received numerous awards, including the 2015 National Academy of Education Spencer Foundation Postdoctoral Fellowship, one of the most prestigious awards for scholars working in critical areas of education research. Dr. Cole, we welcome you today.
And thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to chat with the Burroughs Foundation. It's like family. But let me get right into my comments. And I want to take us back to March 15th, 1947. Albert W. Dent read an article titled "Some Basic Principles for the Organization and Administration of Racially Segregated Schools." The article was published in a national publication named School and Society, and it set forth the basic principles which should guide education of Black children during segregation. It was so provocative and informative that Dent felt compelled to write a letter in reflection to Martin D. Jenkins, who wrote the article. Dent said, quote, "We can't hope to approach the Christian and democratic philosophies as long as certain racial groups are forced into separate schools. Someday we ought to get away from this in America." This is important because Martin Jenkins, again, who wrote the article, was soon to be president of Morgan State, a public Black college in Baltimore. And Dent himself was president of Dillard, a private Black university in New Orleans. Two Black college presidents knew well the challenge of leading a Black institution of learning, but they also knew the power of Black institutions in general. 10 years earlier, in 1937, Dent was superintendent and business manager of Dillard's Flint Goodrich Hospital. In that role, Dillard created the Penny a Day program. Now, if you haven't heard of that, the Penny a Day plan was for $3.65 a year, a premium. Black residents had access to health care. This is 1937. That plan went on to become the predecessor to all health insurance plans in the United States. Therefore, by the time Dent was a college president, he had become a dynamic hospital administrator, but he was also deeply invested in the educational health of Black students in America as well. It's important that I lead my brief comments off in conversation discussing Black HBCU presidents, because now, looking back, we can better understand the tradition of these college presidents actively working to dismantle segregation in America. We often discuss the powerful, world-changing HBCU student activism, rightfully so, but just as important is this history of Black academic leaders. Some of them we've heard of: Benjamin Elijah Mays, president of Morehouse College from 1940 to 1967. But there are also some others that we may not be as familiar with, such as Willa B. Player, her presidency of Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina from 1955 to 1966. There's Howard D. Gregg, the president of Delaware State from 1942 to 1949. There's also Francis Atkins, president of Winston-Salem State from 1934 to 1961. There's so many to name, but ultimately what you see when you look at this history is that Black college presidents were critical actors in shaping racial policy and practices across the South and within the federal government. These prolific academic leaders advised white elected officials on issues pertaining to segregated white colleges and universities. They also helped formulate the parameters of out-of-state scholarship programs that supported Southern Black college students' enrollment at desegregated institutions. These Black presidents also molded public discourse around the governance of Black colleges. In fact, when it came to Black leadership of Black colleges, historian Carter G. Woodson, in The Miseducation of the Negro, said, quote, "Negro schools cannot go forward with such a load of inefficiency, and especially when the white presidents of these institutions are often less scholarly than the Negroes who serve under them. This is important when we think about the full context, the history of historically Black colleges dating back to 1837 with what now is Cheney University. Initially, many of these institutions founded by private white missionary groups had white academic leaders. But notably, when these Black presidents did get their opportunity to lead Black colleges, they often championed the direct action campaigns and student demonstrations that challenged segregation. However, much of this work for far too long was done with extreme caution and out of plain sight. And that's where my work comes in as a historian, to bring these stories to the forefront. Now, for the sake of time and moving us on to our dynamic panel discussion, I want to provide two examples of how these Black presidents, as leaders of colleges and universities, helped to shape the nation's policies and practices in education and beyond. So first, let's talk about dismantling segregation. The most impactful forms of educational organizing has occurred by way of Black teacher associations. As historian Vanessa Sitter-Walker at Emory University has demonstrated, Black teacher associations were critical in advising the NAACP legal teams, who eventually levied successful court battles against unequal resource schools. That said, in 1927, William Jasper Hale, the president of what is now Tennessee State University, my alma mater, served as president of the National Association of Teachers in Colored Schools. This was a critical role in coordinating Black teachers across the U.S. South, leading to many important yet quiet conversations at the state and even county level teacher associations. Now, if you were to fast forward to say May 1952, Howard University hosted a 3-day conference on, quote, the courts and racial integration in education. The conference would be later credited as, quote, one of the most important milestones in our struggle for full citizenship. Some of the most important minds gathered to help formulate the legal strategy behind the eventual Brown versus Board of Education case. Notable was the presence of Black college presidents, such as who I mentioned first, Dillard's Albert W. Dent, as well as Howard law professor and civil rights attorney James M. Nabert Jr., who later became the president of Howard University. In short, Black college presidents were not ones to miss an opportunity to challenge Jim Crow. Now, my second example, I want to talk about the origins of affirmative action in higher education. In July 1963, President John F. Kennedy asked the nation's academic leaders for assistance. He said, quote, the leadership you and your colleagues show in extending educational opportunity today will influence American life for decades to come. Kennedy understood that America's racism had created a foreign policy problem, as it exposed the contradictions of America saying it was a democracy while Black citizens were relegated to second-class citizenship. He asked college presidents to implement, quote, special programs that to help address the nation's racial inequities. Now, with that said, Samuel M. Nabrit, president of Texas Southern in Houston, a public Black college, who's also the brother who I just mentioned, James Nabrit, issued the first proposal for action for how colleges and universities in the whole entire U.S. higher education system could answer the Kennedy administration's call. Nabrit prepared a draft report titled The Program for Negro Colleges, and this report caught fire. Soon, the presidents of Black and white colleges and universities began working together to address racism. The presidents of the nation's wealthier, majority white campuses quickly announced their commitment to various initiatives, mostly focused on Black colleges. These initiatives included summer institutes for Black college faculty, advanced graduate level training for Black college faculty during the summers, as well as exchange programs between the faculty and students on Black campuses and white campuses. University of Michigan President Harlan Hatcher said of his campus's planned program with Tuskegee Institute, said, quote, we can help them in the development of a strong liberal arts program. They, in turn, will advise us on the racial programs. Texas Southern and North Carolina Central partnered with the University of Wisconsin at Madison, Tougaloo College with Brown University, Cornell University with Hampton, Talladega College with Dartmouth, Southern Illinois with Winston-Salem State. All of this national movement was because a Black college president, Samuel M. Nabrit, And his efforts invite us to reconsider today's conversation around affirmative action in higher education and reimagine an opportunity for system-wide change in American higher education, particularly in 2020. So from senior administrators to staff, from students to faculty, you have to go no further than to look at the history of HBCUs and these dynamic academic leaders, and you know good and well just how clear it is the major impact that these institutions have had, not only on Black education, but on the broader national and international educational landscape. Thank you.
Dr. Cole, thank you so much for joining us today to share some interesting insights. It's really interesting in how college presidents have played a major role in racial policies. Now that we have a better understanding of HBCU history and the role, let's just jump in to our panel discussion. With us today, we have Dr. Rosalind Clark Artis. She is the president of Benedict College. She is the first female president in the 140-year history of Benedict College, founded by a woman, Mrs. Bathsheba Benedict, in 1870. Dr. Artis has improved the competitiveness of the college in many ways. She has lowered Benedict's tuition by 26% and increased the academic profile of the college. Our next panelist is Sharonda L. Britton. She is the Senior Vice President, Customer Relations Marketing at Lowe's. Prior to joining Lowe's, Sharonda led Walmart's multicultural efforts, a growing segment approaching $2 trillion in buying power. Sharonda helped to launch the first Benedict Film Festival focused on celebrating women and diversity. Ms. Angela Beasley, Merchandising Director at Walmart. As a merchandiser director of specialty hair for Walmart, she gets to flex her creative and analytical muscles managing a plus billion-dollar hair care business while pushing for equality in the hair care aisle. Her previous experience in marketing at Anheuser-Busch has helped her bring new vision and creativity to a very scientific business. And our last panelist is Mr. Donald Comer. Donald is the staff VP of Decision Science and Analytics at FedEx. His 31-year career has been marked by progressive levels in leadership and data analytics, marketing, finance, strategic planning, software design delivery, and project management. Donald also serves on the Board of Trustees at Stillman College and HBCU as a member of the Advancement and Development Committee and the Athletic Committee. He was critical in repositioning the college from unranked to a top 50 HBCU. What an incredible panel. Welcome and thank you for joining us in this virtual discussion. I'm also proud to say that I am a graduate of a historical Black college as well. Now, to our audience, please share your comments and questions on the chat box because we will be pulling some questions from there to ask our panelists. Dr. Artis, I guess the first question will go to you. And obviously, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with you over the years. And so what I would like for you, the first question is, could you share some significant accomplishments and highlights as president of your educational career?
Thank you, Dr. Burroughs. It would be my pleasure. Thank you to the Burroughs Foundation, and Dr. Cole, thank you for that outstanding summary of the historic importance of HBCU leadership to our country's fabric. Benedict College, we often refer to as the best of BC. Best is a moniker. It is an acronym, if you will. A Benedict education equals student transformation. When we set about the process of developing our newest strategic plan at Benedict College, we named it, of course, the best plan. And that stands for, in that context, bold execution of a strategic transformation. As the leader of historically Black college in the 21st century, it is my commitment to ensure that we are, in fact, the best of BC and that we are distinguished among our HBCU peers. Three critical pillars to that success really are access, excellence, and opportunity. As Dr. Burroughs has articulated previously, access was a critically important piece of our transformation at Benedict College. Our student population is comprised of overwhelmingly low-wealth, first-generation young people of color. Fully 84% of Benedict College students are Pell dependent. That means but for the Pell Grant, they could not attend school. And so the first thing we set about doing was pricing a Benedict College education at a level that our students could access the opportunity to change and transform their economic futures. And so as Dr. Burroughs indicated, we effected a 26% tuition decrease at Benedict College, going against sort of the inflationary profile of most of our collegiate peers in taking down our tuition. We understood that that was critically important to be able to access our young people. We did not want them ever to take a look at Benedict College and say, I could never afford to go there. Once we got our students there and were able to help them and support them in affording the cost of an education, excellence commanded our attention. We wanted to increase the competitiveness of the institution. Therefore, we set about a comprehensive review of all of our curricular offerings. We closed some smaller, unproductive majors and really doubled down on things like engineering, cybersecurity, computer science, business, and entrepreneurship. We took a look at the industries that drove the economy in our region and really set ourselves apart from the pack, if you will, by developing concentrations, for example, in logistics and supply chain to support our high-tech manufacturing industry here in South Carolina. By competitively positioning our programs, we prepared our students to then take their place. As it relates to opportunity, Benedict College really enhanced its offerings as it relates to study abroad. Our partnership, which was not mentioned previously, is between Benedict and Harvard. Our students were able to matriculate there over the summer and earn a credential of readiness to study in the MBA program. And so innovative partnerships, internships opportunities, study abroad opportunities, and student undergraduate research really position our students well to leverage the excellent education they receive at Benedict College and the access that we've afforded them to parlay that into an economic future for not only those students, but their families and, in fact, their communities. We have been very successful and have been very appreciative of the American Council on Education's recognition of Benedict College as an Institutional Transformation Award winner. We are only the second HBCU in history to receive that designation, and I am extremely proud to be the president of Benedict College. Yeah, Mr. Burroughs.
The next question is for all of the panelists, and we'll start with Mr. Comer. What role does HBCU play in educational equity?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm excited to have this opportunity to speak to an area that I'm very passionate about. As Dr. Artis mentioned, majority of the students that come to HBCUs are first generation college students and Pell Grant eligible, which means that they come from low income living situations and home situations. But I'll also say is a good majority of the students who come to HBCUs also face food insecurities. They face housing insecurities. And HBCUs, not only do they deal with the academic side of educating and growing individuals and making them a part of a successful career, they deal with those things that are impediments to the learning experience. They nurture, they develop, and they do it in ways that you typically would not experience in predominantly white institutions. These are some of the most pivotal elements of HBCUs, and the reason why it is important that these 100 plus institutions remain and continue to make themselves available to students who might not otherwise have an opportunity to do this, and those who might not otherwise be successful if they did not have the nurturing that occurred at HBCUs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Comer. Are there anybody else from the panel would like to share their perspective on that question?
I'll chime in, Mr. Burroughs. Shonda L. Brittany here, a proud HBCU graduate of Florida A&M University, also a first-generation college graduate. I'm the youngest of 4 children and the first to attend college in my family, and I can tell you that my personal testimony in terms of the impact of HBCUs is the opportunity that it affords those who might not have otherwise had an opportunity to experience a college education. So very much like our panelists have discussed, the HBCU dichotomy allows for you to not only experience a culture where you're embraced, where you're welcome, where you can be your authentic self, but it also sets you up in terms of, you know, what's going to be expected of you and from you as you go out into the business world. I think that in many times that when we start to look at our predominantly white institutions and our peers that come from predominantly white institutions, there's an expectation of a better education or a past or a history or a lineage that might be perceived as better. And I think time and time again and year over year, it's not about what is better, but it's about what has been best for that person matriculating through education. And I found that many of my peers who have not attended HBCUs continue to support the premise and the nurturing of the HBCU experience. So oftentimes I try to make sure that we go into conversations, especially in corporate America, where it's not about one or the other. It's about what was able to help elevate that student based off of the choices that they made in terms of their educational background. So the diversity of thought and the diversity of leadership and all of those elements from a corporate perspective that usually make it to the forefront are important, but making sure that you have a diversity of students from different educational backgrounds are equally as important.
Thank you so much, Sharonda. Dr. Artis, how has COVID-19 changed your approach and support to students?
Amplified our commitment. We have a firm commitment at Benedict College to supporting our students holistically, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. What we discovered during COVID-19 was really the depth and breadth of the challenges faced by so many students at Benedict College. Fully 12% of our students lack access to broadband technology in their home communities. We had upwards of 30% experience some form of housing insecurity, living with family members or friends in a room not their own, perhaps on a couch or a floor. We had students report significant food insecurity, childcare needs, healthcare needs. We tracked students who contracted COVID-19 because they live in overcrowded multi-generational households where perhaps the primary breadwinner works in a low-wage, entry-level job, frontline, where they're fully exposed. And so we saw the depth and breadth of the challenges that our students experience, and we also saw them really persevere, really step up, demonstrate that grit and resilience that is so consistent with the HBCU experience. And so for us, it has really deepened our commitment, broadened the support services that we offer, really engaged with our students extensively over the summer, providing supplemental support for them for their housing and food challenges, as well as their emotional well-being and student support services in a really wraparound, overall, holistic way. And so I think it has reminded us the population we serve, the unique needs of the population that we serve, and really double down on our commitment to be there for these young people because they represent the future and they're worth it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Comer, as a fellow trustee, can you share with us, are there any details or anything that you would like to share regarding that question?
in Memphis and being also a trustee at Lemoyne College, I got a lot of firsthand exposure to the challenges that it faced. There's a quote that they use at Lane College that's power of potential. I think that COVID-19 forced all HBCUs to lean into discomfort and really to find truly the power of potential. Dr. Artis is exactly right. When we went to a virtual campus at Lemoyne, we had not quite leaned fully into being a virtual campus. We went to a fully in classroom scenario to a scenario where we are now doing all virtual, even this semester. They made some smart decisions around the technology. They partnered with Microsoft and was able to get all of their students Chromebooks. 100% of the students that came back to Lemoyne this year got brand new Chromebooks. They partnered with T-Mobile and was able to build a partnership that gave 100% of the students hotspots to deal with the challenges of not having direct access to Wi-Fi. So this has really been a challenge, but as you said before, when the going gets tough, the tough really figure out how to get going along with it. And I've been very proud of the work that's been done at Lemoyne. Same with the work that I've seen that's happened at Stillman and their ability to be able to be up and running. So I've got Lemoyne, which is totally virtual, and Stillman, which is fully, all the students are on campus, and both are thriving and continuing to play the critical role that they play to educate Black students.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Comer. You know, obviously, as a member of Metropolitan Baptist Church that sits right across the street from Lemoyne College, we have the opportunity to see all of the great work that's taken place over there. So we thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being a part of the board and a part of the community. That leads me to a question for Ms. Beasley. When we think of the community and we think of business leaders, the question is that what can community and business leaders do to help elevate the importance of HBCUs?
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Sharonda? I can't hear.
Can you all hear me now? I'll actually jump right in while we get Angel back. Interestingly enough, Angel Beasley and I have worked hand in hand when it comes to focusing on what is the role of businesses in the community, and specifically with HBCUs, as Angel is a graduate of the University of Arkansas and familiar with that area. And I matriculated down to Bentonville many years ago to work on Walmart's multicultural marketing. Our paths have crossed several times, as well as the fact that we've worked together several times. And I think that Angel specifically works in an industry or a part of the industry that continues to be more and more important for corporate America to understand the buying power of the African American, both male and female. And so as you start to think about the dollars that big corporations are able to receive because of the African American buying power, and allowing them to take notice of the importance of continuing to speak to that consumer, it's also important that they give back to those communities. And Walmart, as well as several of the companies that I've worked for, including Lowe's, understands that responsibility. They continue to make sure that not only are they investing in the communities that they serve, but they're also ensuring that the associates continue to reflect the communities that they serve. And that's everything from foundation work like the Walton Foundation to, as we've all seen during these COVID times, that corporations have created grants and made sure that those grants specifically focused on minority businesses and women-owned businesses who are usually underserved. I think all of this goes back to the fact that you have to understand who your customer is. You have to understand the importance of that customer, the buying power, and make sure that you're giving back in a way that reflects your appreciation for the dollars that they continue to invest with you. And I definitely know that's an area that Angel not only believes in, Mr. Burroughs. I know from your many years in history and working with Walmart, you've seen the progression there as well. But again, like I mentioned, right down to my CEO, Marvin Ellison, who has been very, very committed to ensuring that grants and dollars get poured back into the communities in which we've served, has to be at the core and the foundation of corporate America.
Sharonda. Mrs. Beasley, we're having some technical problems, but I think you're back with us. So if you would like to share some thoughts, some ideas regarding that question.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. This is the world we're living in right now, where connectivity is so important, and sometimes we get disconnected. And I heard the end of Sharonda. Thank you for jumping in. We were actually colleagues at Walmart at one point, so she understands the Walmart consumer and why this topic is so important. I think what businesses can do is first stop and realize the gaps. That's number one. The realization that there are gaps, are systemic issues that we have with hiring minorities in a very compelling and impactful way. That's the first conversation. And I think that is happening. We've seen over 1,200 CEOs since this summer sign together to really tackle economic and systemic problems, specifically in the Black community, and working with HBCUs to help close that gap. The second thing I think businesses have to focus on is the real actionable plan. What is the strategy? And not doing it in the silo with all the top leaders in a room, but reaching across the aisle and talking to the HBCU presidents that we talked about, talking to the students, talking about with associates in your companies that actually have graduates from HBCUs to understand what it means to come from those universities and colleges and what kind of impact they're having on the business. And the third piece, which I'm taking this right from one of the CEOs of Bevel. The CEO of Bevel said this to me in a meeting the other day, and he said, we have to take action. At the end of the day, we can make the plans, we can talk the talk, we can have all the data, but if we're not making actionable steps that are measurable to do the work, to bring in these diverse, dynamic students or graduates actually into these companies and set them up for success, we will be talking about the same thing 10 years from now, 20 years from now. The action piece is where we're moving. In Walmart, the company I work for, we're doing a lot there. We have pledged $100 million to this type of work. And I think these type of conversations that we're having right now is really going to move the needle forward.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Beasley. Mr. Comer, you are a part of a major corporation, and what has FedEx done to support HBCU?
Thank you. And this is I love this time where I get a chance to talk about a company that has been very good to me. FedEx has a program that we call FedEx Cares, and that is a wraparound program that really reaches into the communities where we live in and where we work and try to make an impact. When I think about the experience of being Black and trying to get an education and then build it in and parlay it into a career, it's around education, experience, and exposure. And I'm going to tackle how FedEx has engaged and how it has shown that it cares around these three areas. FedEx has endowed scholarships at both Tennessee State University and Jackson State University. This past year, FedEx helped to establish a data analytics program at Stillman College. Over the past few years, FedEx has given over $1 million to Lemoyne-Oren College to support the technology that undergirds its designation as a center of academic excellence in cybersecurity. And we support both the UNCF and the Thurgood Marshall College funds. In the area of experience, we do internships with, we have recruitment at HBCUs that include Florida A&M, Stillman, and major sponsorship of the National Black MBA Association, which I like to brag about as a member of that organization as being the largest diversity career fair in the country. FedEx established a program at Mississippi Valley State University, and the company is collaborating with that institution to provide professional opportunities and employment and tuition reimbursement for those students there. And then at FedEx Ground, we've been involved in, through exposure, what we call the FedEx Ground Boardroom Experience. Through that program, we bring FedEx executives on campus to HBCUs, including Claflin, Howard, Lane College, Lemoore-Norton College, where we actually sit in a boardroom like setting and expose those students. So again, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do and how much FedEx has embraced what is a passion for me, and that is a positive and caring perspective around educating Black people and helping them to be ready to step into their full potential.
Right, here you go, Burroughs.
How can businesses, regardless of their size, help HBCUs? And let's start with Mrs. Britton.
Thank you. I definitely think that one of the ways that businesses can support HBCUs, regardless of their size, is to make sure that all of their efforts encompass HBCUs in terms of recruiting, retention, and engagement. And so it means having a presence in ensuring that students from a diverse background are allowed to actually have the opportunity to attend and receive a four-year degree. So whether that is an endowment, such as what FedEx is doing, whether it's grants like Lowe's has been doing, whether it's the foundation with Walmart, ensuring that you're providing and supporting students that attend the HBCUs. Second, I think it's in the hiring. And that hiring is not just at the entry-level roles or in internships. It's about setting students who come from HBCUs up for success, where they can enter into roles similar to their colleagues that come from PWIs and from similar programs. And then the third, which I think is important not only for HBCU students, but I think it's important for diverse students and minorities overall, is that big corporations, large corporations, small corporations need to make sure that their internal culture supports and prepares peers for these incoming students. I think allowing students, alum, and those of us that are considered to be minority to come to work and be our authentic selves allows us to do our best work. And I think that if the recruitment and the retention and the engagement components all follow through from those elements, that's really setting HBCU students up for success. It's not just about those entry-level roles. It's not just about internships. It's about making sure you have representation from the entry level all the way to the C-suite, because what happens then is that the next generation of students in general, not just HBCU students, but the next generation of students are allowed to see themselves in roles that they might not have otherwise thought that they could attain. And that's truly where you find that corporations are not only embodying the messages that they're putting out in the community, they're actually living them by showing up with leaders in these spaces.
This has been a very, very live discussion, and we are at the final question here, and that question is: what message would you like to share with other business or community leaders who are watching about what they can do to support HBCUs and their students? Who would like to share first?
Word is thank you. I think the key word is engagement. Please engage with us. We are fans of symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationships, partnerships, if you will. Our students come to us very well prepared, generally speaking. They are high capacity, low wealth students who often lack exposure. So symbiotic relationships from the very beginning of that student's matriculation that allows them to be exposed, to be engaged with your corporations and businesses, to understand what the possibilities are for their careers and the opportunities that might be available to them, both as students and ultimately as employees of your company. is critically important to our students. Participate on our industry advisory councils. We want to make sure that our curricula are current, up to date, and meeting your needs. And ultimately, we seek your investment. The reality is these institutions are in need of your support. These students are in need of your support. I liken us to minority suppliers. Benedict College and HBCUs like it are minority suppliers. We do not make widgets, we manufacture human potential. And so there is a certain business case for investing in the production of that diverse talent. I am confident that should you choose to make that investment, you will see the dividends on that investment pay off considerably into the future. We look forward to partnering with you.
Would like to share in that question?
Yes, I would. It's kind of a tough act to follow always behind Dr. Artis. I think she's encapsulated it all. But I would like to say that you have to engage. Engagement is the biggest thing that I would recommend, to get to know the institution, to understand what they're trying to do. One of the things that Dean Erica James said that I always remember is that academic institutions and colleges are in the business of serving the community. And the only way they can do that is through engagement and understanding what the potential is. And I love the whole idea of influencing the curriculum. If you're looking for people and you're looking for them to come out job ready, there is certainly an opportunity, and there's always a willingness for these HBCUs to work with you to influence curriculum and to allow their output to meet your business needs. So that's through engagement and support and encouragement. So look forward to more engagement from local businesses in the Memphis market and around the country if there's an HBCU in and around your area.
Thank you so much. Sharonda?
I would just add, again, following behind Dr. Artis and Mr. Comer, that looking for unique ways to partner, and those partnerships can extend, again, far beyond just the recruitment. I just recall a quick story. There was an intern that was looking for exposure to really kind of understand retail, and Angel Beasley and I actually partnered. She actually allowed this young lady to come and shadow her for a day. And she wasn't interning at Walmart. She was interning for another company. But just to the prior points made, that exposure gave her the experience of not only seeing an African-American woman leading a desk of business at the world's largest retailer, but she took her under her wing and then also introduced her to other individuals. I also think about when you think about companies like Google and what they've established in partnership with Howard University. I think that if we can start to get these corporations to think beyond the traditional ways of just recruitment and look at ways that you can truly partner to build a pipeline of engagement with these students, that not only do you encompass truly giving back and representing those communities, but it truly does speak to the efforts of a long-term partnership and engagement.
Thank you so much. You know, this has really been a lively discussion. Mrs. Beasley, do you have something you would like to add?
Yeah,
I still think.
I think my connection is still a little shaky. Can you guys hear me okay? I think my connection's bad. I was just going to say I agree with everybody's sentiments. The one word that is really sticking out to me is exposure. And giving people exposure, whether that's through the Walmart has done with Essence Festival and bringing those college students and giving them the behind the scenes look of how to do major outreach and programming through Walmart. And I think to really give the students a lens under the hood, so to speak, of what we do and how we do it, to get them excited about working for big corporations or even being entrepreneurs themselves.
Thank Thank you so much. You know, this has really been a lively discussion. And as a product of a historical Black college, I can tell all of you that are here that if it was not for Benedict College, where I went to school, I'm not so sure what my path would have been like in life. So I will be forever indebted to historical Black colleges and university because they play a major role in Black and brown people's lives. So great discussion. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. And so what we're going to do now is that we're going to introduce a couple of our brilliant students who are working very hard in their post-secondary studies. And the first young man that we would like to introduce to you, his name is Henry Peterson III. Henry is a senior majoring in business administration with a concentration in management, aspiring to become an attorney. And then we have Maya Schofield. Maya is majoring in business management and planning on obtaining her MBA and attending Columbia Law School because she is an aspiring criminal defense attorney, prosecutor, judge, and running for mayor in her beloved hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay close attention to our students because as you just learned, the sky's the limit when it comes to their aspiration and goals. Henry and Maya, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank
So,
you
in this order, with ladies first, Maya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. I am Maya Schofield. I am a junior business management major from Atlanta, Georgia, and I attend Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. I humbly serve as the SGA president for this academic school year. So pretty much I'm the oldest child on my mother's side. I'm the oldest of four. My mom attended HBCU, and now my baby sister, we're only 14 months apart. She attends Benedict as well as a freshman. So that's pretty much about my background. And yeah.
You, Henry?
Yes, sir. My name is Henry Peterson III, not the first, not the second. I'm a senior here at Benedict College. I come to you hailing from the marvelous mile-long town of Wagner, South Carolina. I'm the oldest of two. I have a younger sister, and just listening to what you all said earlier about the impact that HBCUs could have on first-generation students. My mother was actually a first-generation college student, and her impact, her drive has kind of trickled down. Now I'm at an HBCU, and hopefully my little sister will be attending an HBCU when that time comes.
Very good. So what are some things you want our business leaders to know about the impact of HBCUs?
I take it. Yeah, yes, sir. So the impact that HBCUs have both on individual students as well as generations is unmatched. Just me personally, attending the HBCU gave me the pride that I needed within my race, within my community, and most importantly, within myself, to know that anything that I go after, I can achieve. It gave me the model for achievement, just seeing other African Americans shoot for the stars and actually do it. And that's very, 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 inspiring to a young African American male. And then in the bigger picture, looking at HBCUs, they have transcended generations and will continue to transcend generations. When people think of HBCUs, they think about African Americans specifically. But whenever you get an HBCU, you give a lot of diversity. We have students from China. We have students from Colombia, South America, Brazil, the Bahamas, Jamaica. So whenever you look at the overall footprint of HBCUs, we have the potential to transcend the world. I don't know. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and my favorite movie of all time is Black Panther. And in the main setting of Black Panther takes place in Wakanda. And to the outside world, Wakanda seems to be this small third world country who's incapable of, producing anything of importance. But little do they know, if they were to tap into the resources, to the human capital, to the knowledge that is within Wakanda, Wakanda has the potential to change the world. And that's how I kind of look at my HBCU and HBCUs across the nation. We are the real Wakanda. We're just waiting for that exposure, as they said earlier.
Harry,
Maya?
that was an analogy. I don't know how to beat that, but just to answer the question, I kind of feel like my HBCU has really, not even just my HBCU, but HBCUs overall has set us up to succeed. That's a place where Black excellence is really is just there. We don't we brag, but it's there. And we want to show any and everything that we can do. We have professors and teachers that fully support us. I can honestly say at my HBCU, we're thriving. We're constantly improving, and we're improving in every aspect, every department. That's academics, that's leadership, that's sports, everything. I just feel like a HBCU is a place that you want to be at. That's where people go to escape. Me personally, I knew I wanted to get away from home. Granted, Benedict is only 3.5 hours away from Atlanta, Georgia, but that was enough for me. Just for me to thrive, for me to feel accepted, for me to feel as I can do any and everything that I want to do without nobody telling me no, and for the support system. I think a lot of students need that support, that little that push, and HBCUs give you that, and they give you that and more. So I kind of feel like that's the impact that HBCUs have on students, as well as my experience at my HBCU. I just feel like I'm extremely supported in any and everything I do, whether that's leadership, my academics. So I just all Black excellence and overall, just the support system and being constantly motivated while doing that and exceeding in that aspect.
Maya and Henry, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. And as you all can see, we have great kids who are ready, who are preparing themselves and will be ready for the workplace. So if you're looking for an opportunity to recruit some students, you don't have to look far. You can look at historical Black colleges, because we are producing leaders of tomorrow. So again, Maya and Henry, thank you so much for sharing that experience with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I guess the big question now is that what can we do to help our HBCUs and their students? You know, the answer is very easy. There are many things that we can do to lend our talent, time, and treasure. Here are just a few things that I can encourage you to consider. I'm not going to go through all of them. So there are my favorites. Some of them are my favorite. And to our audience, please share your ideas and comments on the chat box. Here's one of my favorite, and one that obviously we participate and is very dear and close to my heart, is that donate to a scholarship fund. This is an incredible way to help students make college a reality. Scholarships allow students with tuition costs, books, housing, and all other expenses associated with attending college. Another favorite of one of mine is that, work with human resource or talent management team to ensure they're setting specific goals to hire at least, that's not asking a lot, at least 3% of new employees from historical Black colleges and universities. If you are a smaller business, you can be intentional about this as well. The same applies to internship opportunities. Encourage at least 3% of corporate donations with HBCUs, and try to make HBCUs a part of your corporation and organization's social responsibility and diversity and inclusion efforts. You can also participate in speaker series. You know, colleges and universities are continually looking to bring distinguished speakers to their campus because it impacts students and faculties alike. So those are some of my favorites. There are many more things that we can do. But again, let me just say to you all, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the inaugural Burroughs Foundation Historical Black Colleges and Universities in Action virtual tour hall discussion. We hope you enjoy the conversation and you feel empowered to support HBCUs. Thank you so much and have a nice day.